Welcome back
Welcome.
to technical difficulties with murder therapy with Dolltok.
I'm done with it. Just done. Like Jody said that if Ryan and I get a divorce ever in the future, she thinks it'll solely be because of this podcast.
He's gonna be like, your deranged country bumpkin cousin in Southwest Virginia and her damn haunted dolls.
That's just how Ryan and our poor Jody, like, we bicker and bicker and bicker, and she has to listen. He's like, delete all this. I was like, I am deleting it. Like, we're just, like, going back and forth. Because he's out of town and he's trying to do it from over the phone. That's great. But, yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway.
yeah, good times. But it's all right. So I'll be brutally honest. Like, we had recorded this Wednesday. Part of these technical issues is my fault. I didn't realize how important it is to restart a computer, but apparently that's something you're supposed to do. And I had not. So our audio on this one was shit. So Ryan was like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to re-record, which I expected the, text to come. So we are going to be recording this one, and with the holiday that's coming up, 4th of July, which you guys will be listening to this about that time. I don't know if you're going to be grilling out and have us playing in the background. Cool if you do. I'm not going to be upset if you don't, but there you go. What is...
I hope it's not humans on your barbecue, okay?
Well, that's not what was going through my mind. But the clip, what movie is it? She's like, it really makes me want a hot dog.
Oh my
real
god,
bad.
one of my favorites, Legally Blonde.
Yes! You light up like the 4th of July.
The second one. Makes me want a hot dog real bad.
Yeah. Makes me want a hot dog real bad. So anyway.
I love those movies.
I do too, and I couldn't remember, but that's what was going through my mind when you were like, murder and hot dogs. Makes me want a hot dog.
Murders makes me want a hot dog real bad.
Anywho, so we are recording back to back because the holiday. So again, just like we told you when we did Dahmer, we do take baths, we do change our clothes. It's just we're recording back to back, just so you're aware. Yeah,
we're clean.
Yeah,
people.
just while you're we are clean people. So yeah, just so you're aware. So 2 back to back.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I told Ashley I wanted to do something not so graphic like Dahmer because he's a lot. Like, he checks all the boxes. So I felt like we needed something that wasn't as bad. But this is a bad case, okay? So I wanted to say light and fluffy, but
we're saying not as bad.
Not as bad. This isn't it's not a light and fluffy case, unfortunately. It is emotionally really terrible, but it's not as graphic as what we get with Dahmer. There's not as much,
There's not as many
victims. There's not as many victims, no. But I think as far as on the scale of evil, Susan Smith, she is up there at the top right there with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, she is of course. She is like a completely different level of evil, in my opinion. There's lots of killers that have been documented that kill people and don't kill their own children. She killed her own children. So spoiler alert, that's what we're talking about today. So if the death of children is something that you can't listen to, this might not be the episode for you, and that's okay.
Trigger.
Yes, so trigger warning. Otherwise, if you want to listen, I will do the best I can when we're getting to the god-awful part. Yeah. Everything about Susan Smith is god-awful, unfortunately. She's just a all-around shitty fucking human being. But part of the reason I wanted to cover this, I just want to shed some limelight that she is up for parole, people. That's the only reason we're talking about her on here. And it's shocking, but sure enough, yes, she is legitimately up for parole. And if that doesn't scare you single moms out there that co-parent with your baby daddies, it should. Because this bitch has been writing people behind bars making comments that I would make an excellent stepmother to your
You don't
children.
want her to be
Mm,
stepmommy dearest, okay?
yeah. Yeah.
She
Listen, I'm not
doesn't.
telling y'all
Oh,
who's
I almost gave spoilers
ain't
away. I'm so
telling y'all
sorry.
how to parent. No, you're good. I ain't trying to tell y'all how to parent your kids or anything. I have a beautiful co-parenting relationship with my
She really
ex-husband.
does.
We get along great. Um, I couldn't ask for a better dad to my kids. I couldn't ask for a better bonus dad to my kids. And I'm grateful that even though me and him didn't work out, we're a blended family and we make it work. But let me tell you
Blended.
something. Let me tell you something. Ain't no way in hell Susan Smith would ever be around my kids. That's the moment that I'd be like,
Hell
all right,
no.
you can go ahead and sign your rights over. Like,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
if you want her, yeah, so ladies, be on the lookout
Brandon
because
just
Susan
rolls
Smith
up
is
and says,
trying
"Hey
to.
Jody, I got a new lady," and then it ends up being her.
I swear to God, I would lose my shit. Like, I'd be.
You like, oh no,
I don't care who he ends up with. I want him to be happy, but like,
not her,
not fucking
not
Susan
her.
Smith. Absolutely not. My mom.
Run away, Brandon.
Oh my God. Listen, my mom despises this woman. So some people aren't familiar with her, some people are. But just so you know, Susan Smith is labeled and still carries this title America's Most Hated Woman. And that takes skill to be labeled as such.
Facts. My
So,
dad remembered her when we
yes.
were. He came over after the messed
Hmm.
up recording. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember her. She was all over the
I
news."
think that, yeah, well, everybody remembers when it hit the media, which we'll talk about,
Yep.
because she caused quite the ruckus. And yeah, so all
Let's
right,
jump in.
Susan Lee Von Smith. Okay, Smith obviously was her married name, but she was born in Union, South Carolina, which is part of the Bible Belt of America. Okay, um, September 26, 1971. Now, Susan was born, she was a blended family too. She had siblings that were born prior before her. She had a half brother, and then I believe she had a full blooded brother, and she was the only girl. But her family was not a happy go lucky. She was not the picture perfect family that you see on the magazines. There was a lot of chaos, there was a lot of alcohol abuse, infidelities. She witnessed her father become very violent with her mother. It wasn't the picture perfect childhood that you would see on TV or anything. Um, Susan was described by one of her childhood friends' parents to be like a very lost child, as if like she just had like a blank look and would just kind of look out into space or whatever. And that it was like she just wasn't there, if that makes sense. She was physically there, but mentally she just was like
Just in her
kind of out
own
there or
world,
whatever.
which now
In her own
knowing the
world. Yeah.
case, that says a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They obviously, the constant arguing and bickering and violence in the household, that scared the kids, right? I mean, that would scare any kids, period.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, yeah, this dysfunction ended up having her half brother. He attempted suicide and had to be hospitalized in Duke Hospital for a period of time. And Susan was still really young when this happened.
Mm,
Um, yeah, it's really sad. Kids, thoughts like that should never be going through a child's mind.
not at all.
Well, it should that those thoughts shouldn't be going through anybody's mind, period. And obviously, if it is, you definitely need to seek help. Everyone has a sole purpose here, but a small child should never have thoughts like that.
Never.
So, to me, for a small child to do that, that just shows how really toxic the household really was.
God, that's terrible.
So, yeah. Um Susan idolized her father, though. She loved him. And they said that she would light up like the sun when he came into the room. She thought the sun set and rose in her father's
Mom.
ass, which is fine, whatever. I mean, maybe he was really good to her and the kids, and just him and Linda, that's her mother's name, couldn't get
Listen,
along.
Linda.
I don't know. Yeah, Linda does play a vital role in today, too. We're going to get to
Yeah.
know Linda a lot more. Yes. So, um, Linda decides that she's going to finally get out of the situation, which I'm kind of like, that's great. I'm glad that you have decided that you're going to remove yourself, because sometimes it's best if children grow up in two separate households instead of one broken home, right?
Somebody told me the
And
saying, rather be from a broken home than live in a broken home.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that this is probably the only logical thing that I'll ever applaud Linda for, because she's just as shitty as Susan, but she does put her foot down. She's going to leave Susan's father. This sets him into a downward spiral of depression. And the alcoholism ends up intensifying times like 50, and he ended up killing himself. And Susan was only 6 years old when this happened. And it really put Susan in a really dark
Oh.
place. Yeah, and that's sad. I mean, no, again, no kid should have to deal with
No.
that. It's hard enough when your parents die at when you're a small child, but knowing that it's because of something that they did to themselves, I think that just makes it worse. I think
10 times
suicide for
worse.
anybody is terrible, but
It's so
no.
hard to go through, because then it leaves the family like, where did we go wrong? How do we not help? Like, it's rough, especially if you're young and you don't fully understand it.
Yeah. I mean, she was only 6,
Yeah.
so that's a lot to deal with.
So heavy.
But I have a feeling that Linda probably was already seeing Bev, who was also a prime role in today's case, for quite some time, even before she decided that she was going to leave um, Susan's father, Harry. So she had been seeing Bev. I have read that it was like within 2 weeks of their divorce, and I'm kind of like, but did they continue the divorce if he was already deceased? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that just kind of void everything out? But I don't know if it was 2 weeks within his death or 2 weeks within divorce, but within 2 weeks, she was already married to Bev.
Good God. That's
Um,
so
yeah,
quick. I could imagine
yeah,
just
yeah,
like, bye hi. Like,
yeah. Yeah. But Bev, so I guess Bev had a lot of money. Like, that's the way I understand it. Like, Bev must have came from a family that had money. He was also very active within the Republican Party.
okay.
Yeah, he's somebody, if that makes sense.
Okay.
To me, he ain't shit, but
He ain't shit,
like
man.
in during that time, he was somebody. Okay, so obviously he's like the role model as far as a male father figure to Susan now.
Yeah.
So as Susan's growing, she actually excelled in school. She did really well. Um, she was voted like the most friendliest in her class. Yeah, I know, and I'm like,
I'm curious of
bet you're voted the most evil, sadistic bitch that's ever
friendliest.
walked the earth. Yes, yes,
Who?
she was the friendliest.
Mm,
She was a little chubby, but she would wear clothing that was very, I guess you could say like body appropriate, and it would really like shape her figure. She wasn't obese, but she wasn't like super skinny.
okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, she was a pretty girl. I will say that. Your personality shit though, Susan. But yeah,
Ooh, she said it.
yeah. I mean, she was pretty. Yeah.
She's gonna
So,
she's gonna
all
get
right.
parole and come after Jody just for that comment.
Well,
Just
I
kidding.
dare
Dare
her.
you?
I dare her. She's gonna be too busy. She don't worry. She's not gonna worry about what I say. You're gonna learn very quickly that Susan only cares about what males think of her. My opinion don't mean shit to her. Your opinion don't mean shit. But if you got a penis, I guarantee it does.
Well, I don't, so guess I'm
I
safe.
don't either. So, all right. As time goes on, Susan would kind of like, I don't want to say she would fight with her mother for Bev's attention, but she really did seek out his approval and his
Mm,
attention, and part of me, so psychology coming in, like I'm kind of like, maybe she's just trying to fill in that void from her dad, where he's no longer there,
yeah.
and she just is longing for that. But then we learn what a slut she is, so then and how gross she is.
It's
But
getting
yeah,
real.
well, it is what it is.
It
Yeah,
is what
so
it is,
all
and
right,
she is what she is. Okay.
she is what she is. In 1987, I guess Bev had children out, from his previous marriage or whatever. So his daughter was coming to stay the night. This is right before Susan's 16th birthday. She's 15. The family had agreed that Bev's daughter is going to sleep in Susan's room in her bed. So Susan's going to sleep on the couch. Cool. Whatever. So she's on the couch. So, trigger warning, if sexual assault bothers you, you may want to fast forward. Otherwise, listen if you dare. So, yeah, because we're about to get a little gross. So, Susan's sleeping on the couch. Bev is on the other end of the sofa. And I guess in the middle of the night, she just wakes up and she takes it upon herself to crawl in this man's lap. She's 15 years old. Totally not appropriate, whatever. Bev reports that he took this as Susan was willingly requesting sexual advances. And it's like, I don't give a shit if she was like butt ass naked and she's like, touch me, Bev. She's a child. You are the adult. If you have to pick her up and throw her across the room, by all means do so and be like, this is not appropriate. But that's not what happened,
Self-control.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
self
of course
control.
not.
Self control. So obviously things escalated.
Ugh.
To my understanding, they did not completely go into full blown intercourse, but he did molest Susan on the couch.
That's so terrible.
But yeah, it's sad. It's disturbing. And she didn't say no, but at the same time, she's 15 fucking years old.
So it was consensual, but it's wrong because she's a minor and you know she's a minor and you should have walked away.
It's your stepdaughter.
Yeah, that's gross. Gross.
It's your stepdaughter.
But it wasn't forceful.
Like,
is what we're saying.
It wasn't forceful. No. But regardless of, your brain does not stop growing till you're 25 years old. Which I know then people's going to be like, well, then, when you're 18, you're legally an adult. There's some things about the laws that I don't necessarily agree with. Whatever. It is what it is. But the point of it is, she's still an adult. I mean, she's still a child. He's the adult. She's not even able to fucking drive. You're married to her mother.
She's getting mad. She's getting so mad. She dropped the F-bomb, you guys.
Yeah, I'm like...
We were told by our moms not to say that.
Yeah. My mom told me not to say that.
So mad.
Okay, anyway. So, of course, Susan did file a complaint against Bev, and it was investigated by South Carolina's Department of Social Services, which resulted in Bev having to be removed from the home. So he moved out. But I don't even think it was like a whole month, maybe a month. He's right back moved in, and Linda and Bev blame Susan for what happened. Linda knows about it, obviously, because social services is involved, and she's, well, you shouldn't have done that. So she actively knows, like, Bev doesn't deny it.
But she didn't get mad that he acted? That's disgusting. No.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you right now, if that would have been me, it doesn't matter if I'm the one that initiated it. I'm telling you right now, my mom would have had my dad out in the damn driveway and she would have ran him over repetitively and spin the tires on him. Like, there's any logical mother would do that. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? And obviously my mom would be like, this type of behavior, Jody, is not appropriate. We need to get you help. Right, well, and that's not what they did.
Who did we give Mom of the Year to last time? It's Linda's turn. Linda gets the award. Yeah. Now. Passing the baton.
Oh, Linda gets all kinds. Linda gets all kinds of awards. All right. So in February of 1988, Susan was 17. She seeks guidance at the school because the abuse is still going on. Okay. Again, I don't know if she's telling him no. I don't know all the nitty-gritty details. It's still going on. School gets involved. A complaint did get filed. No charges were pressed at all. Like, they didn't push that any further, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it was very important to Bev that didn't go any further because he is in politics.
It's so disgusting, but honestly, I'm not surprised that things get swept under the rug.
Yeah.
When it comes to people with power.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of the reason charges didn't really fully get pressed is because I'm sure there was a lot of pressure from Linda being like, you're not going to do this and you're not going to break up the home. And you know what I mean?
Mm.
Making them feel guilty for
Yeah.
it. But yeah.
God,
All
Linda.
right. So I know, fuck you, Linda. In the summer of 1988, this is between Susan's junior and senior year. So I'm assuming she just finished her junior year of high school. She's going into her senior year of high school. She gets a job at the Winn-Dixie.
Woohoo! Yeehaw!
Yeah, the Winn-Dixie, which if you are not familiar with, because apparently Ashley didn't know what that was the first time we recorded, it is a grocery store.
The
I
Winn
guess it's
Dixie and
like
the
the
Piggly
southern.
Wiggly.
Yeah, the Winn-Dixie. We don't have a Winn-Dixie here
We
though.
don't either.
Um, yeah, and the closest Piggly Wiggly to me is like, I think it's in Princeton, West Virginia. I
But
think
she's
I don't know, but
she's got a
anywho,
food lion.
yeah, we do have Food Line. That's my mom's like go to. I like Kroger, but I don't have a Kroger. I have to shop at
I
Walmart.
love
Sorry. Like
Kroger.
but I'm bougie, so I do have my groceries delivered. I will, yeah,
She does.
I do.
This girl on DoorDash. Let me tell you, if you want to know something about
Listen, let me
Jody.
tell you the best fucking thing that's ever happened in this world is delivery and the fact that I don't have to go into the wild and deal with the people. Like it's great. I love it. I'll pay the extra fees. I don't give a shit. Like bring it on. Anywho, all right. So she's working at the Winn-Dixie.
All right.
Yeah, she started as a cashier, but then was kind of like bumped up to kind of like the head cashier or whatever you want to call it, like the lead cashier. And
She had the fastest hands in the
she
West. South.
she did in the South, in Union, South Carolina. She had the fastest
I just
hands.
think of
Okay,
Employee of the
anywho.
Month.
Well, she does not get Employee of the Month because
Okay. Well, the
when she
movie where
was
they're like, they do
interviewing,
contests to see who's the quickest hands over the cash register.
I love that movie.
That movie's great.
I love that movie. Yeah, but
Anywho.
she does not get that award. She, in the
I mean, she
meantime
might
of
have
not
from a
doing her
few.
cashier duties, she is having an affair with a married man at the Winn-Dixie,
No.
who is much older than she is. She does end up getting pregnant, so trigger warning. Okay, she ends up getting pregnant by the married man, and I'm assuming I just picture in my mind. I don't know all the nitty-gritty details of how this conversation went, but I'm sure he was like, "You're a minor. I'm a married man. This isn't going to happen." Which, again, it's like, you were the
I was
adult,
like, but
she
it
was the
did.
child. Sorry, it did happen. When two people do things, that's a possibility. It takes two people to tango, sir. That's what my mom always says. It takes two people to tango.
Facts. Do we
But
need to tell
yes,
you where babies come from?
yes, do we need to go into science, sir? But anywho, so she falls pregnant. She ends up getting an abortion. And obviously, the married man rejects her, which throws Susan into a spiral. We are going to learn Susan does not take rejection very well at all. Susan doesn't understand what no means. And like,
Facts.
she just doesn't, yeah, she doesn't like that word. She doesn't like being told she's not wanted.
Like, it pulls out
So,
inside of her. It's just insane.
yeah, she's disgusting. So she ends up attempting suicide. She attempted to overdose. I believe it was ibuprofen and Advil. It was two different types of headache medicines. She ended up having to be hospitalized for a period of time. Pretty certain her stomach had to be pumped. There we have
That
it.
shit could
When
eat
Dick,
the lining of your stomach
mhm.
so bad. So I'm sure it had to be pumped.
So, okay, now, all right, story time.
Yay!
So, not that, okay, listen, suicide is not funny.
No.
I am a huge activist for suicide prevention, suicide awareness. We're educated. We are taught a lot about like the warning signs and everything within mental health. Um, that's a big thing for us, and we do everything we can to prevent it. But we do get a lot of borderlines, and if I could name them, I swear, like the amount of patients I have got that they're like, I tried to overdose on ibuprofen. So then I say, well, how many did you take? And they're like, I took 5. And I'm like,
I take 4 when I have a headache. Come on.
I'm like, I live on 5 daily. Like, Yeah, but they think that they'll read it and they're like, if I take one more than what the label tells me to do,
It's
I
gonna
can
do the
say that I'm
trick.
attempting suicide, and then it's like an attention mechanism. So I just had to paint that, like, so
God, we're going to
the
hell.
amount of people, yeah, that will listen, and I'm just like, cool, noted. Yeah. Anywho,
Let
so I just
me
had to throw
turn
that
you
out there.
around and
So
scoot you right back out that door. Thanks. Have a good
not
day.
that I don't want anyone to test that theory or anything. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. It just I'm like, tell me you're attention seeking without telling me you're attention seeking. Well, I
Facts.
tried to OD on ibuprofen. I took 5.
Like that,
Like,
yeah, it just sounds like you weren't serious. Not that we want anybody to be serious about it, but that just shows
yeah.
you
So
were
I just
just
kind of
wanting
picture that that
attention.
was kind of where Susan was like, I'm going to take 3 Advil and 2 ibuprofen. All right,
They tell you
like,
not to mix
okay.
Tylenol and ibuprofen. She's like, "Well, I did it."
I did it. Here I am. Pump my stomach, Mr. Doctor. All right, here we
But
go.
she is
So,
dramatic. We're not pieces of shit. I promise.
yeah.
She
Yeah,
is
we're not. We're
dramatic.
not making
I don't think she had any intent of actually wanting there to be life ending circumstances to that
No,
situation.
no.
She was
Susan was
dramatic
just
and
too
wanted
fucking
attention.
narcissistic
I need this
to
man to
actually
know
kill
how
herself.
bad it hurt. That's what she's wanting.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
That's so that was the point I was trying to make. However, she could have very well took 20. I don't know. I just picture in my head that's many admissions I've done over my years in psychiatric care. Like that's what goes through
We'll
my
have her on as
head.
a guest
So,
when
all
she
right.
gets parole. And we'll ask
We
her.
need to know, Susan. That's going to be one of our questions tonight. How
Oh,
many ibuprofen?
we're fucking terrible.
Okay, all right. So we are. We're moving on. Okay. Here we go. So the Winn Dixie was extremely supportive of Susan. Extremely supportive. Like they're like, don't worry, we want you to get better. We're holding your lead cashier job for you for when you get back. I'm not discrediting the fact. Listen, if you're a lead cashier, don't take offense to what I'm saying at all. Period. But I'm just yeah, they're like, don't worry, Susan. We know you're in high school, but we're gonna hold your job for you. Whatever. Um. So Susan comes back to work. I don't know that they knew the extent as to why she attempted
I'm
suicide.
sure they
I
did
don't know
not.
if that ever came out. I would imagine not because I feel like that there would have been like not consequences, but you know what I mean,
Way
like a
more
talk about
dramatics. The
boundaries.
wife would have came out the woodwork. It would have been a whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't think that Winn Dixie knew that. I think that
Most
Winn Dixie
companies
just
don't
thought that she was in
allow
a mental health.
relations as well,
Yeah,
so I feel like one of them would have
much
lost their
less
jobs.
much less an adult with a child.
Facts.
So, yeah, I that's just my thoughts. But anywho, Susan had encountered David Smith, who is a huge role in today's case too. David had been working there. I don't know that David knew the extent of what was going on with Susan, the married man drama, all the shit, right? But they were acquaintances. I don't think that they had romantically been involved before the suicide attempt that had happened, but they talked. He was a stalker there. Now, it's important to recognize that David also came from a toxic household.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really important, and we'll touch base more on that, but he kind of came from the same background that Susan did. His parents fought all the time. I'm pretty certain that his religious background was Jehovah Witness.
Mm,
So they were kind of like
that's tough.
sheltered
Yeah.
and listen, if you identify as that, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I don't think that he really had like a
It's not a bad thing at
real
all.
world
It's just a
experience.
really
No,
strict.
it's
It's a
not.
strict religion.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is a strict religion.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of boiled down to all that. So his upbringing wasn't the best either. And let's see, he was born July 27th, 1970. He was the second of 3 children. So he had some siblings. Um, yeah. So Barbara, yeah, it says here Barbara Smith was a Jehovah Witness, and she
Okay.
sheltered David
Yeah.
a lot. So yeah, that's what I thought. I was pretty certain. But anywho, their marriage was troubled, and that's what David grew up in, just like Susan. So of course, him and Susan they start seeing each other. It's also important to note David was engaged when him and Susan were together. Susan doesn't give a shit what your marital status is or whatever.
I don't give a fuck.
She, yeah,
That was her
he does
motto
not.
in life.
That's awful.
She has
It's
no
awful. So,
boundaries. She doesn't care to wreck a home. It's
mm-mm.
terrible.
Oh no, she does not.
Mm-hmm.
She does not. So this is the summer of 1990. They begin to date because guess what? Susan falls pregnant again.
Yay.
And David does not believe in abortion, right? So Susan's like, I don't believe in that either. Yeah. Yeah. Not that that's a funny topic at all. I don't mean to make jokes about it, but yeah. So they can't get an abortion, so they're going to be together.
Yeah.
And David tells his, fiance about Susan. And of course, she's like, fuck you, David. I'm done. Good job.
As she
I would have done the
should.
same thing. Yeah, as she should. So David and Susan are together. When Susan tells Linda and Bev, her parents, about this relationship, they're pissed. How dare Susan get, pregnant out of wedlock?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, really? You want to be angry about that when your husband's a fucking pedophile? All right, cool. Whatever. Whatever. Obviously David and Susan, I think what really drew them together is the trauma bond.
Oh,
I
100%.
don't, yeah, yeah. They both were not healed. They had a lot of open wounds that needed to be healed before they ever got in a romantic relationship. And during this time frame and being in the South and the Bible Belt of America, if you got pregnant, people just had that expectation, well, that's who you're going to spend the rest of your life with.
I feel like that mentality slowly faded away. I mean, there's still some people that think that's the thing to do when you get somebody pregnant and you step up and you get married, but like it slowly faded toward the end of the 90s, I feel like. So, we're in that
Yeah,
time
I mean,
frame.
and I think it still goes on. But I'm like, it's not as bad as what it
Yeah.
was. But this was in the 90s,
Yeah.
early 90s, so that was still a thing.
Still in there.
Now,
Yeah.
Linda did not hide that she did not like David. Bev did not like David either. He's probably
But she
like,
likes Bev.
yeah, and Bev likes her. But anywho, so gross. They did not like David because he worked at a supermarket. And I'm not hating on what like he's still young. He's still getting his whole life together. I'm sure a baby was not in his books this early as like, this is how my life is going to play out. Granted, we know what happens when you do those type of things together.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
don't have to break down biology for you, but it's they did not hide that they did not like David and they did not approve of David, which caused a lot of tension. Now, March 4th, 1991, okay? David's older brother, Danny, who was 22 at the time, ended up passing away due to complications of Crohn's disease.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it's really sad,
Yeah.
really sad. Now, 11 days, just 11 days after um the funeral, David and Susan still got married at United Methodist Church. This is because Susan's family insisted that she get married before she starts showing. Mind you, the man's brother just died, but they have to get married immediately because Susan is not allowed to show. Like, heaven forbid,
Oh, jeez.
I know, it's disgusting. All right. There was a home that David had been working on. Apparently, it must have been passed on to him. It was like his grandmother's or something. And it wasn't like a mansion. It wasn't very pretty, but it was a home. And he had showed Susan this home. And he's like, month by month, as I'm getting paid, we can work on this. This will be our first, the starter home. And Susan
Oh.
was okay with it until Bev and Linda see it. And then to Susan, it was just a tin shack, a tin little country shack.
Oh.
And that, yeah, I know. Yeah, that just to paint the picture, that's how they are. Um, in May of 1991, This is 3 months after Susan and David's wedding. David's father attempted suicide.
Oh my
Susan
gosh.
found him. Yeah, suicide's a big thing in this whole, like, it's really sad, honestly, but Susan's the one that found him, and I'm sure that did trigger her given her history with, her dad and whatnot. David's father had taken an overdose of pills.
Oh.
So Susan worked at the Winn-Dixie until she went into labor. Michael Daniel Smith, this is our first baby, was born on October 10th, 1991. Michael's middle name was chosen in honor of David's brother that passed away.
I love that.
Yeah. So Michael's born, right? And early in their marriage, what do you know? David and Susan are having problems. I bet you never foreseen that coming.
Was it because she was having an affair?
Well, a big part of the issue was money. According to David, Susan was always interested in materialistic things. Right, now keep in mind, she did grow up with Bev, who did come from some money.
Yeah.
She often worried about paying the bills, and she would go behind David's back and ask Bev and Linda for loans, and they would give it to her. And David didn't like this at all because
Sure.
he's not discussing this with them. I mean, they made enough money that they were making it. It might have been tight, but I don't think that the loans were really like necessary, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um at this time, so when they both were still working at Winn-Dixie, David was Susan's supervisor, which also caused tension between them.
I'm shocked they
Working with
allowed
your
that.
spouse, yeah, they did. I guess during that time. I mean, this is gonna sound bad. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's the Winn-Dixie. It's not like in my profession that would never be allowed.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
so, yeah.
Like I could, yeah, but
We can
there,
work.
I don't think.
Like, we can work. Our spouses can work for the company, but they can't be in the same department or like
Yeah.
connected to, like, our departments can't be connected to each other to where one could be over the other or anything like that.
Well, at that time he was still her supervisor, but she was working part-time too. So it's not,
Yeah.
because she was at home with the baby, so maybe, I don't know. But he was her supervisor, and that caused tension. The money aspect was causing tension. But David was earning $22,000 a year at that time, and Susan was earning about $17,000. So during that time frame, I mean, obviously the economy wasn't like what it is now, but I mean, they were doing
That
very
ain't
well.
shit now. Sorry if you guys make
Yeah.
it's not
no,
a diss to
it's
you.
not.
It is a struggle to make that little amount of money right now. And then I don't even know if it was, I don't know if that was decent money or not. I'm sure it was good money back then.
I think it was, again, I'm not saying that they were like, that they were able to go splurge. They made enough to do what they needed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And provide for the family.
God, it was
And
because
that was it.
nowadays that
Yeah.
just, it would be so hard.
So obviously, Susan's going and getting money from her parents who don't like David as is, which is adding more tension to it. Linda and David didn't get along with one another. Linda was very controlling and liked to put her fucking 2 cents worth into how they parented, as if you get any say in how to properly parent.
Ugh.
Mind you, in case you all have forgot, she did know that her husband was having a sexually explicit relationship with her daughter, and she did nothing about it. So let that sink in for a minute. But
she's gonna tell her daughter how to be a parent. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you how to parent. Yeah. So,
what a good mom.
She would often give solicited advice when not requested about how the marriage should be. Linda crossed boundaries that she had no fucking business.
Like she was so perfect and
Linda
lived a perfect marriage.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And according to David, Susan would always just do whatever Linda said. It was like she just had to have that constant approval.
Yeah.
I don't know. Another stress on the marriage was the fact that they both had affairs. It wasn't just Susan. David did the same thing. So they were constantly cheating on each other.
Yeah.
Constantly. And I mean, so they're fighting. Money sucks. Poor David's in-laws is he's got a fucking controlling mother-in-law and a pedophile for a father-in-law. So I mean, I feel for the guy. Like, yeah, it is what it is. So they're constantly separating. They're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth continuously. And they'd split up. David would leave the home. Apparently, they had like I don't know if it was like a secondary home or whatever, but he would go stay at this other house up the road, and then they would go to mend their relationship. It was just constant back and forth, back and forth.
Mm.
And during their first separation, Susan ended up getting back with a former boyfriend of hers. Of course, that didn't work out, and she's crawling back to David. I mean, it was just a continuous thing. There was a time that Susan did go stay with her parents, and when she was with her parents, she found out that she was pregnant with the second child.
Oh.
Yes. So she gets pregnant again, as if because the first one is working out so well. So let's just bring a second child into this
During all
cluster
that
of
stress,
madness.
yeah, that's gotta be that. Putting myself in her shoes, though, that's gotta be rough. Like, you already know that your marriage is on the rocks. You guys are not in a good place, and then I'm sure the second baby was not planned, and that would have just been the topper to the Sunday.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in 1992 at this
Mm-hmm.
point, is when she gets pregnant again. And that's when she was staying back at home with her parents again. Her and Michael were back at home. Um, she found out she was pregnant in November 1992. And in December is when her and David decided that, again, they're going to try to mend their relationship. Now Susan's second pregnancy was not happy-go-lucky. Like I think in the first pregnant, she was like super excited about it, and this one, she complained a lot. She didn't feel good. She would say that she was fat and ugly. And listen, as somebody that has gone through 3 pregnancies, I will tell you each and every single one is different, right? My third pregnancy was really hard on me. However, I was pregnant at the age of 33. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. It was really hard on me. Like
My
it
first and only
it
one
was.
was hard, and I was like, yeah, done.
Well, you're also diabetic too.
Yeah.
So, it's hard on people
Oh,
with
yeah.
diabetes to be
So,
pregnant.
yeah.
So, you were high risk, wasn't you?
Super high risk. I was pre-eclamptic. He was an 11-pound, 3-week early preemie baby.
Mhm.
I hemorrhaged after I had him, slipped into a coma. So one and done. If one was enough, I was counting my blessings for sure. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, her lack of self-confidence during this time where and of course our hormones are through the fucking
so
roof,
crazy.
people,
Yeah,
like you just men, I'm sorry, you don't understand it. It's really hard, like people don't get it. So who knows, she probably really was feeling those things. It's about the only thing I'll
absolutely.
probably ever agree with her on, is that she probably did feel less than, and she was all over the place, and her emotions were, not to mention, she's already dealing with all the stress of her and David, fighting all the fucking time. So
Yeah.
she
And then you got
probably
a
really
baby
did feel that
taking
way.
half of everything you eat that, like, at that point in time, you're,
Hmm.
like, craving and it's taking half of it. And then your hormones are going crazy. Your body's changing. It's rough. And then to add
Yeah,
marital problems and money problem. Oh, it's so... I
yeah,
sympathize
it's just
in
it's
this
a lot.
one aspect for her.
But at the same time, she kind of brings it on to herself too. So like, I try not
Okay.
to. Yeah, she's just terrible. But
Okay.
anywho, so she's not. She's not having sex with her husband. It is what it is, because she's all up in her feels. And David feels lonely at this point. And we know that they both like to cheat on each other. So what does David do? He ends up hooking up with Tiffany Moss, who is the cashier at the Winn Dixie. The Winn Dixie is the happening place. Like, listen, all you single people, I guess you just need to stop going on like Match.com
Plenty
and
of
Tinder.
fish.
Just go to the fucking Winn Dixie. Like,
There's plenty of fish in the Winn-Dixie, guys.
from the sounds of it, it's not successful, but there's willing participants apparently at the Winn Dixie. So,
It'll get you a
anywho,
fling.
um, now Susan is a very jealous person. Bet you never guessed that.
Mm.
So she would get really upset if she would be paying a visit to David at work and she's seen him talking to another woman.
Oh,
Like,
I
she
could
would
see
go off.
it.
And employees, oh, I can see it too. Employees talked about many incidents where Susan would pop in and there's David just chit-chatting away with some female, and she loses her absolute shit because she's not mentally stable whatsoever. I'm not saying she has a mental illness. She's just not mentally stable and has no, like, sense of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Yeah.
So,
And that's probably why rules of not working with people you're in
I could
relationships
only
are
I could
implemented in places.
only imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Susan and David's second son, Alexander Tyler, was born August 5th of 1993. Susan had to have an emergency C-section at this point.
His name was
After
August.
uh, Alexander. We
Alexander. I'm
called
sorry.
him
Okay.
Alex. Yeah. No, you're good. After Alex's birth, Susan and David put aside their differences. They had split up for like the 9 millionth time or whatever, and he's going to be there to help her because C-sections are hard. I didn't have to have a C-section. I
I
don't know if
did.
you had to.
Yeah.
It's a long recovery
Good.
process. So
Pushing out an 11-pound baby. Props to anybody who did it. My grandmother did. My mom was 11 pounds as well. No. C-section all the way, thank goodness. But it is a rough recovery.
Well, so he's going to be there to take care of Susan, to help with the baby, to help with their other son.
Yeah.
But it only took 3 weeks into taking care of Susan that they decide that they need to go separate ways. Only 3 weeks after the birth of the second child.
For the final time?
Oh yeah, because I'm sure they probably did. I mean, yeah. So after recovering from Alex's birth, Susan decides she's going to find alternate employment. She finds a job at a company called Conso Product. She was hired as a bookkeeper, and eventually became the assistant to the executive secretary for J. Carey Finlay.
Good for her.
J. Carey Finlay, who was the president and CEO for Conso. Now, Susan reports that she loved this job. She loved everything about the job. The pay was better.
Good.
It was more within what Susan could see herself doing. She didn't want to be working at a Winn-Dixie for the rest of her life, and I admire that. I'm all about people bettering themselves, but you do have to start at the bottom and work your way up. You don't immediately get an executive job the minute you graduate high school. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest reasons that Susan loved Conso was Tom Finlay.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
It was a man with a penis.
Yes. So she loved working there, and she adored her some Tom. Now, Tom was one of 3 sons. He was from Birmingham, Alabama. He had graduated with a bachelor's degree from Auburn University, right? So he's young. He's successful.
Educated.
He was also reported to be, yes, educated, very attractive. Like, he was like the Southern bachelor that all the women were, eyeballing. You know what I mean?
Stud.
Like, he was like the Channing Tatum of South Carolina at the moment, right? So he's popular with the young women. I ain't saying Tom was a slut, but Tom got around. Okay. So
Tom.
Being part of Conso allowed Susan to make more friends. They would host events and parties and social gatherings, and Susan, of course, wants to participate because that's the lifestyle that Susan wanted to live. Mm-hmm. She didn't want to be living, remember, in the country shack that Bev and Linda didn't approve for.
So everything her mom said is like seeping in, and she's like second guessing her whole. Hate it.
Yeah. Which there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
I'm not.
That's why I said I hate
it. Listen, I admire anybody that gets out here in today's time and busts their ass. Like, if you're trying, I don't care if you're the cashier at a Burger King. I admire you and I applaud you for that. But unfortunately, Susan's parents didn't see it.
Most people start from the bottom and work their way up, and I mean, it's you should be grateful to that. They were stepping stones and foundations to where you are in the moment. So, hate that she
Yeah.
regrets it.
Now, I don't think that her divorce had been finalized. I don't know that she ever completely got divorced from David. But they were still times that they would talk about getting back together. Like they're so
Oh God.
toxic. But during one of the last few separations, Tom and Susan began to date. This was the beginning in January of 1994. Tom would frequently meet her for lunch. He would take her to his parents' estates. She is
Mm.
living like this high profile luxury life that she's always
She's
wanted.
on cloud nine.
She's on cloud nine. Of course, David wanted to try one last time because in his mind it would be beneficial for both the boys to be under one
No.
roof.
Yeah.
And they did. He stopped seeing Tiffany. She never did stop seeing Tom. That fell through. Yeah, I know she's such a piece of shit. And she wants to continue her thing with Tom, right?
Can we talk about
And
the
he
fact that
goes,
you also said that she is still continuing to have relations with her stepdad?
"Oh no, we haven't got to that yet, but I will. Don't worry. No,
Damn
it's
it!
okay. No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. We'll get to that.
Damn it!
Don't worry.
Can't keep
Yeah,
my head
no,
straight.
I
What we
love it.
talked
No, you're
about?
good.
Okay.
Well, she's just a lot. So in August, David rented a 2-bedroom apartment, and this is just a couple miles down the road from Susan. Like, he has accepted, we're just going to co parent. It's fine that we didn't work out. He gets new furniture for his apartment, he gets the boys new beds, all the things, okay? At the beginning of September, is thinking that her life is just so fucking perfect. And Tom's great and everything's grand and oh, I'm so lovely. But then Susan gets her Dear John letter. That's what they call it, the Dear
Oh,
John letter from Tom.
yes.
And he's basically expressing to Susan Susan had already been taking it as if this is it. Like they're like this. That's not what Tom had in mind. I think that Tom probably likes Susan. I think he might have been one of those guys that is trying to get his life like on track. He's still young. He just graduated, college, all the things. So I think that he may have really wanted to just like casually date and maybe one day it might get serious,
Sure.
but not right now, right? And that's fine. There's some people like that, and I
Oh, it wasn't
respect
fine
that
with Susan?
100%. It was not fine with Susan, no. But one thing he emphasized in that is he didn't want kids.
Mm.
Susan has children. Think about that for a second. I'm sure she's sitting down reading all of that.
Yeah.
Like, I can change this and I can change that and I can do better about this, but there's not much you can do about the fact that you have children. It is what it is.
Well.
And they come first. Yeah. But not in Susan's mind.
Mm.
No. So Susan's pissed at this point. Now Tom has reported to people that she was very possessive and needy. Not Susan.
No.
No, not Susan. Never. On September 21st, Susan's attorney served divorce papers to David. She sought divorce. Are you ready? For adultery.
Oh my God. I can't.
Yeah,
The irony.
it's not funny,
I
but
can't.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um on October 23rd, Susan tried to meet up with Tom in the hopes of restoring their relationship. It didn't work. Tom had his mind made up. It is what it is. He doesn't want you. Let the man go, okay? You and him, he's not ready to take on 2 kids. He wants to be a fucking, college graduate bachelor. Let the man go. But does Susan let go?
Oh God. I
No.
couldn't
Susan,
imagine she let
no.
go. Talons are in him.
Yeah. So we're in the fall. It's a very chaotic time for Susan. This is where that comes in. She's working full time for Conso. She's an emotional wreck because she can't understand why Tom doesn't love her. Like, she can't accept that. Aside from that, apparently, even though she's in the midst of the early stages of her divorce, she's still fucking David. And guess what, guys? She's still fucking her stepdad. So let that sink in. Like, she is a very
Now as an adult.
needy, yes, as an adult, mind you. Yes, as an adult. Um, Apparently during this time Susan had started to drink on top of everything else. So yeah. All right, so we're going to Tuesday, October the 25th, 1994. Apparently this began like any other day for Susan. She had the kids full time. I guess David was getting them part time. I don't know what their custody agreement was, whatever. But she gets up, she gets them ready, she gets breakfast going for the kids, she gets them to daycare, she goes on to work. Um, while coworkers have reported that like Susan was sitting at a table with them, they're all laughing, cutting up, having a good time like your coworkers do, and Susan's just sitting there like in this blank stare, like she's like not even part of the conversation, right? um there is a coworker named Sandy Williams, um I'm sorry, that was her supervisor.
Oh, okay.
Sandy Williams is her supervisor, sorry. So at around 1:30 p.m. she approaches Sandy and she's like, can I leave work early? And she's like, well, sure. I mean, is everything okay? And then Susan says, I'm just down. I'm in love with someone who doesn't love me back.
No.
That's not a fucking
Well.
logical reason to leave work, you dipshit, but whatever. Anywho, um, so Susan's like, well, who, do you mind me like asking who this person is? So she says, Tom Finley. But it can never be because of my children. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So Susan remains at her desk because she just says she's not going to go home. Around 2:30 p.m., Susan calls Tom's office, so she's calling in his office while they're at work, mind you,
Jeez Louise.
and asks him to meet her outside of the building to talk. Susan tells Tom that David, so this is where the manipulation tactics start to come in. She tells Tom that David's threatening to expose and make some public embarrassing information out, like apparently that Susan's done tax fraud and all this, and that she even brought in her sexual abuse from her stepfather. And I
Mm.
think that she was thinking that this is going to be like, oh my god, let me hug you and comfort
I'm so
you, and
sorry.
that's not what happened. Tom's just like, what the fuck, like what was you I mean, could you imagine?
I'd
I'm
feel so
like,
uncomfortable being him.
yeah, I'm sure he did. Um, yeah. So obviously he's not like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, let's get back together. He's just like, we can be friends. Like, oh, what do you say to that? Like, he's like,
I'll
we can
be
be
there
friends.
for you. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So at 4:30 p.m., Susan sought out Tom again.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like, yeah, no. In the Conso photography studio. Apparently they had like a photography thing there. Susan attempted to return Tom's Auburn University sweatshirt because we're in high school. That's what people do. If I can't have you, I don't want your sweatshirt. And he's like, just keep it. Like, I
Right.
don't want it. Like, I got that for, yeah. So, which pisses her off even more because, yeah. So she goes and collects her sons from daycare, right? And she's heading in her car down. There's apparently this is called Hickory Nuts. Yeah, she's acting Hickory Nuts, but like she's heading down Hickory Nuts. While she's driving, she spots a woman named Sue Brown who also worked at Conso.
Okay.
Okay, she's the marketing manager. So she pulls in beside Sue, and she convinces her to return to Conso with her so that she can apologize to Tom for lying to him. And I guess again, do what she's been trying to do all day and has not been successful at it. Right. Things are just not clicking for her.
Jeez.
Um, and Sue does this. But then Sue talks about how she feels very manipulated by Susan because she just leaves her kids in the car with Sue to go deal with Tom,
Yeah.
and they talk, and guess what? Tom still doesn't want her. Imagine that. Yeah. I guess that she learned that they were getting together after work, like a bunch of coworkers were meeting up, and Sue was also going to be part of this like social engagement, and Tom's there just
She's
to
got an in.
hang out. Yeah, and Susan calls this restaurant that they're at, and the waiter brings the phone to
Oh
Sue, and she's
my
like,
god.
"Hey, it's Susan. Has Tom asked about me?" And Sue's like, "No, no, Susan, he hasn't." Yeah, like she's just, yeah. All right, 8 o'clock p.m. So, guys, this may be the parts that you kind of, yeah, just so you
Gets
know.
it gets
Susan
deep.
dresses her sons. Yeah, she places them in the car seats, and she begins driving around Union. She describes that the idea of Tom's rejection, just she had never felt so lonely and sad in her entire life. Around 9 p.m. that night, Shirley MacLeod was relaxing in her home watching TV. She was just finishing, I guess, the news, and she hears a woman outside wailing on her front porch. So
Jeez.
she goes, turns her porch light on. There's Susan. And this young woman, she cries out, "Please help me. He's got my kids. He's got my car." Shirley, led Susan Smith into her home. And then Susan proceeded to tell her, and this is a quote directly from Susan, "A black man has got my kids in my car." They then call 911. This exact thing is reported to 911. It's at 9:12 p.m. when the 911 dispatcher called the Union County Sheriff's Office, and they responded to the scene. Okay. Apparently, right directly in front of this woman's house, there was a stop sign, which we'll talk a lot about here shortly.
Yes.
And this is supposedly where Susan was carjacked. Okay. Susan tells the following story. I'm going to read it quote for quote. "I was stopped at the red light at Monarch Mills, and a black man jumped in and told me to drive. I asked him why he was doing this, and he said, 'Shut up and drive, or I'll kill you.'" Susan continued and told Shirley that at the abductor's direction, she drove northeast of Union for about 4 miles until he made me stop right past the sign. That's the stop sign that's like right in front of Shirley's house. Shirley confirmed that the sign was for the John D. Long Lake, which was located several hundred yards outside of Shirley's front door. "He told me to get out. He made me stop in the middle of the road. Nobody was coming, not a single car." Susan continued. "I asked him, 'Why can't I take my kids?' Susan told Shirley that the man said, 'I don't have time.' Susan said that the man pushed her out of her car, and while he was pointing a gun at her side, Susan continued by telling Shirley that when he finally got me out, he said, 'Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt your kids.'"
Then give them to me. Like,
Right? So my mother told me, listen, let me tell y'all something. Obviously, the media responded. This made national news.
oh yeah.
If you watch the YouTube, you can find it on YouTube. It was a very publicized case. I was 4 years old when this happened, and I can still remember my nana and my mom watching it on the news. And my mom said, "That bitch is lying." Why? She didn't shed a tear. Any normal mother would never be able to get on TV, I'm sorry, and hold a press conference. There's a joke. I couldn't find it. We tried. Me and mom tried, but mom had heard it. It was from a black comedian, and he said, "Listen, any black mom that would have happened to, they would have been coming running with the fucking bumper with the license plate tag saying, 'Find this,' like find this."
Facts.
I would have lost my life. I'm gonna fight tooth and nail to keep my kids. Take
Yep.
my car, take my bags, take every penny to my name, but you're not taking my
I
kids.
would have been thrashed by the road holding on to that car.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. I would have been coming running with, just like mom said, with the fucking bumper and the tag sign.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, yeah. The nation immediately picked up that Susan's story did not add up. Now, there was a detective that personally knew Susan, and he did believe her in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they have to, interview David and they have to interview Susan, right? Those are they immediately zone in family. Family's always suspect, regardless of what you're saying. That's normal. They do a lie detector test with David. His everything checks out. He doesn't know where his kids are. He thinks that some
God.
man has abducted them.
Yeah, poor
Can you
David.
imagine? And like, if you look, there's a video. One of the investigators, since the aftermath, he talks about how they were videoing them before the interview even started, and Susan's grinning ear to ear like, we're gonna be on TV. And
Oh,
David looks like he's been hit by a train and he doesn't even fucking know how to speak.
God. I couldn't
And
imagine.
she's all like, yeah. And all for what? To get a fucking man's attention that didn't even fucking want you.
Yeah.
He didn't want you. It is, yeah. But David's lie detector test came back. He's telling the truth. He doesn't know anything about where his kids are. Susan's came back as deceptive. And the only question that it came
Ah.
back was, do you know where your children are?
God, like
And
that
ding, 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 it lit up.
that commercial that played at like 10 o'clock at night and the 90s. Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and she knew exactly where they were. But she continued and continued to take the nation on a wild goose chase,
Yeah.
right? That her kids are missing. Well, obviously, Tom hears word that her children are missing. And what does Tom do? He reaches out, like any person would have. I would have, and I would have been like, you know, what can I do to help you? Of course, Susan's tickled, right? She's getting Tom's attention. He wasn't giving it to her
Oh,
before, but
jeez.
he's giving it to her now. Yes. Obviously, there was a whole issue with the race thing because it infuriated the black community. Why did it have to be a black man that took the kids? Why
Listen,
wasn't it a white man?
that's where my head went. Oh, I didn't want to say it, but that's where my head went.
Well, but it's the truth. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to poke anything. I don't want people to think that we're trying to be racist. I'm not being racist. It's the truth. If you look it up, it did stir a lot into the race card.
As it
We
should. Why
went
does it have to
9.
be like you fabricated the story? Why did it have to be? I get she was probably trying to be super descriptive, but like it didn't look good on her end. But okay.
Well, no, it did. And police are noticing there's inconsistencies in Susan's story.
Oh yeah.
Things are changing. And again, she's not acting like I would act. Of course, again, I do stand by we don't know how we would act until we're in that very predicament. But I'm sorry if that just happened. I don't know that I would be on TV grinning. I'm going to be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I would be even
Mm-hmm.
emotionally stable enough to be having a press conference, period.
Facts. I'd be a mess.
Like, period. Um, so that she takes police on this wild goose chase, wastes the media's time for 9 days because, spoiler alert, Susan knows exactly where her children are.
What?
Yes, Susan knows exactly where they are. Eventually, like, it clicks to the police that they're not going to be able to just ease it out of Susan. They're just going to have to be straightforward and be like, we know that you're fucking lying to us. Just tell us where they're at.
Oh yeah.
Stop wasting our time and tell us where they're at. So they make arrangements to meet up with Susan, right? Susan doesn't want her parents to know, Bev and Linda, that, she is a prime suspect in her children's disappearance. And she lies to them to tell them that she has to go do other, things or run errands or whatever. And she goes and meets up with the investigator who personally knew her. And he just tells her, he's like, I know that you had something to do with this. The fucking game is over. Where are they?
Yeah.
What am I looking for? Are we looking for children alive or are we looking for a body? Tell me where the fuck they are. And Susan ends up breaking down and she's wailing and she immediately says, I didn't mean for this to happen. Yes. All right. It's about to get really real if you want to fast forward. Susan tells police in that moment that she was going to kill herself. And that in the midst of her driving hysterically, all sad because Tom doesn't want me, She is, she's going to drive her car into the lake. She then decides that her children can't live without her, so she's going to kill herself and take her children with her. Is that what Susan did? Fuck no. This bitch drove to the lake, put her car in neutral, and watched the car go into the lake. She watched her children sink into the bottom of that lake. Let that sink in for a second.
Yeah. No.
Hmm.
No.
But again, she was going to kill herself.
But instead, I'll just get rid of my kids, because.
Now, a lot of the biggest question I think that everybody has asked is, if she didn't want those kids, why didn't she give them to David? He would have taken care of them. But the answer to that, unfortunately, as sadistic but it's realistic. She couldn't do that. It was a ploy for attention.
Yeah.
Giving them to David wouldn't get her what she wanted.
So let's kill our children. Holy fuck. Where
It
people's
takes
heads
a really
go.
sadistic, sick motherfucker to kill their own children. There's been lots of documented god-awful serial killers across our nation who have children and never once touched them. But Susan Smith let her babies, in diapers, go down into that lake.
It's disgusting. So disgusting.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. My mother, to this day, still gets emotional when we talk about it.
Sure.
And this is 30 years ago, and it still is gut-wrenching.
Which, sadly, I mean,
So
there's still moms that hurt their babies on a daily basis. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I think what does it so much, what makes Susan stand out from other mothers that kill their children, is one, that these are small babies strapped in car seats. Two, she watched it happen. She literally took the investigators. She could point exactly where that car was.
Oh.
And what's disturbing is divers had searched the lake and didn't see anything. They didn't see anything. But when they pulled that out, there they were.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
It is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
Sweet
so
babies.
Obviously, Susan's going to try to pull the crazy card. She's interviewed by psychologists. She was diagnosed with what they call dependent personality disorder.
What?
It was eventually, yeah.
Not
which was eventually changed
Susan.
to borderline personality disorder. Susan tried to use the defense mechanism that she was sexually abused by her stepfather. Yeah, she's such a piece of fucking shit.
Jody,
listen,
are your kids still alive?
I am a survivor of sexual trauma. My birth father is a deadbeat piece of shit and a drug addict who never had anything to do with me. Guess what? I'm a college graduate and my kids are still alive. So fuck off, Susan Smith.
Yay.
Not
an excuse.
So
that was the point.
No,
I was
it's not
proving.
an excuse.
Yeah.
No, it's not an excuse. It's up to you to take your trauma and turn it into something positive, right? You can make the best out of it, or you can do shitty things like Susan Smith. I encourage you not to do that, but yeah. Obviously, Susan didn't, win her I'm crazy card, obviously. She was given 30 years to life, and unfortunately is up for parole. I think really what helped seal the deal with the whole court case, police did a reenactment of the car and put a video camera in there, and people got to watch what those two babies seen. What Alex
that
and
would
Michael
sink
seen.
in deep. Oh, sorry, that was a distasteful pun. I'm sorry, you guys, and I did not plan that, but.
No. You didn't mean. She didn't mean it in a derogatory way, but that's exactly what they did as a means to. This is what.
That's terrible.
They seen, and you know what's fucked up is I can't help but think the only thing that went through those kids' mind is I want my mom. Yeah, that I want my mom.
In panic.
Shoot. So,
I know you're gonna make me choke up. I couldn't look at you because I saw him coming.
Yeah.
But I want people to know that the process of parole, there's a lot that goes into it as well. And I have a friend that I worked with in the past, and her aunt was murdered by the man she was married to, brutally. And every time he's up for parole, and it's after the first time, it's like I feel like it's been 15, 20 years, and he's getting another round at it. And every time he's up for parole, she has to have like a whole bunch of signatures to go against his parole. Like the victims' families have to work at fighting to keep them from getting parole. It's gross.
I
There's other things that
feel
go
like
into it too, but they want to just nix it.
feel like Susan's not going to get parole. Surely to
No.
goodness not. If anything, I don't, for
That's
her
just a
safety. Not
careless
that I
person
give a
that should not
fuck
have been a
about
mom.
her safety. Yes, yeah. But don't worry. Susan has also been causing quite a catastrophe behind bars because Susan can't be fucking normal at all. She has ruined many other people's lives behind bars by having affairs with guards and causing them to lose their jobs. Not that they are not any sense responsible for that. We are taught boundaries, obviously, but, she sleeps with the guards and then reports rape. And they do look at that as rape
Mm.
because she's in their care. My patients are in my care. I'm their
And you
caregiver.
control your
I'm held to
actions.
that standard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so they are just as responsible too. But yeah, she also, again, to reiterate to all my single moms out there that co parent, she is writing men because that's the one thing that she cares about is the male attention and emphasizing what a wonderful stepmother she would be. So, when Susan Smith is about to go before the parole board, I encourage you to, stand your ground, ladies, because this monster really truly believes that she is a good hearted person.
Hide your husbands.
And
Hide your
that's
sons.
yeah, hide your kids, hide your husbands, your baby daddies, your ex
Oh
boyfriends,
God. She could be a good
whatever you
stepmom, but
will.
she killed her own kids. Like the
Oh,
irony of
she's not.
that.
She would never. Yeah, no, she's awful. But unfortunately, that's our story of Susan Smith,
Mm.
America's most hated woman. And
It's still
Susan, what
hated.
a wonderful. Yes, you're still hated. I hope that you wear that crown proudly.
Facts.
What a thing to be known for.
Ugh. I hope you're proud.
Yes.
Hope you're so proud.
I do want to say though that David, I don't know that he got remarried, but he does have other children. Then he's living life to his best capabilities. I don't know that he ever forgave Susan, but he did an interview and he talked about when she got her sentencing, the moment that she went, like the judge asked her to come like up to, where he was. He said that it immediately started pouring the rain, and after she got her sentencing, it stopped.
Wow.
Mhm.
Stuff like that's weird.
And yeah. Yep.
That's insane.
Yep.
Well,
Yep. So, I guess we have questions for the
we
girls.
do. We always have questions for the girls.
We always have
Look at them
questions.
sitting there so purty.
I know they're probably disgusted with Susan Smith. I am. She's just oh god, she's awful. And my mom, every time I say her name, like when we were talking about us covering this case, mom was like, "I hate her." Mom didn't even want us to do this one because that's how much she hates her. She's like, "I fucking hate that woman."
Well, Kimberly, we hate her too,
Everybody.
so.
Yes, everybody hates her, but it just she she did one of the most evil things that if you can take out your own children for your selfish needs, you will do anything.
Oh, facts.
Literally anything. I would kill for my children, but I never would kill my children.
Yep. I couldn't imagine.
There's a huge difference. Huge
No,
difference.
my
That
whole
was
freaking heart
Biggie's
just
emphasizing.
melts just telling my kid, like, no, or having to punish him. We have to, but, like, my heart hurts. I couldn't imagine taking his life.
Right.
I could not.
Right. All right. Here we go.
Ladies.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, ladies. We need to know what you think of Susan Smith.
Crazy? I swear.
I heard evil. I don't know what that's.
That
So
was
we'll have
kind
to go
of cool,
back and
though.
play it because
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. All right. For my own curiosity, How many ibuprofen did Susan take? I don't know. They're like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Not enough. Did you hear it? I
Not
swear
an-
it said not enough. Oh my. The supernatural is
Listen, it would have
ruthless. I
saved two
love them.
lives taking one. Okay?
Yes.
I hate to be that way. But
Yes.
so did David get remarried and move on and is
Yeah. Did did David end up getting remarried? Yes.
okay.
Yes. And I know he does have he has other children. Does Susan have any remorse for what she did?
Nope.
I heard just a
Oh,
little,
I swear I
and then I
heard
heard
nope.
no. But I did hear just a little, and then I heard no.
I don't think she does. Ugh.
What did Tom think after he found out?
Ooh, good question.
Hate. I heard hate.
Oh, I could only imagine. Like you probably
I
can only
wonder, did
imagine.
he feel any, did he feel responsible? No, no, that's
Oh,
good.
good, because I mean he wasn't. He can't control what she does.
He wouldn't, no,
Yeah.
no.
Well, is she going to get parole? Do they feel like she's going to get parole?
Do you think that she'll get parole? No.
I agree.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. I hope y'all are right.
All right. I don't think I have any more.
I don't think I don't think I have any more either. All right, thank you, ladies.
Thanks, ladies.
Did you hear them? They said you're welcome.
Oh, they're so cute.
Love them. I love them so much.
They're so cute.
Oh yes. Well, we're sorry. We know that that was a super emotionally heavy one.
Yeah.
But I promise you, next week's that you'll listen to that me and Ashley are about to record is very comical. So, believe it or not, you can take murder. Never mind. I'm not even gonna say it because then people's gonna be like, "That's so weird." But yeah, okay. All
Don't
right,
go there.
Ashley.
Well, you guys know the deal. We highly appreciate all of your guys' love and support and the fact that you guys just listen on any platform. If you want to continue listening and you like what you hear, find us on YouTube, Spotify, if you like to just listen while you're driving in the car. Like, follow, and subscribe on most social media platforms. And now go hug your babies for us.
Yes, yes. Leave us a hashtag. We're gonna start a new hashtag. Fuck Susan Smith.
Oh.
New hashtag. Yeah, yeah. Fuck Susan Smith.
Yeah.
So let me see it in the comments. So,
Message
all right,
us.
we love you guys.
Yeah. Love you. Bye.
Bye.